Welcome, Adventure. I'm GM Goblin, your GM Goblin. And today I'm going to be doing another Reddit raid. And I have a few questions that I thought were pretty good, and I find that come up quite a bit. And it's one of the things that we can argue about a lot on our table. We're going to be going over delaying your action during a surprise round, a little bit over your CR adjustment for your party. Maybe you're having a little bit issues with the standard or suggested CR for your adventure. We're also going to be going over combat in water, everybody's favorite, and a little touch on incorporeal creatures by rules, what they can do, and what's left up to interpretation. So let's get into it. Heinekai specifically was asking about bestiary whenever it comes to. Main point I was asked bestiary if it is, or if you make your own enemies. Secondary part asking how you know the strength of your enemies. I keep finding bestiary underwhelming. It can be for a lot of players. He has a 6th level party. They're raiding Merfolk Town, but the bestiary Merfolk are 1/3 CR, and then the bigger ones are going to be 3 CR. Besides sending too many enemies at them, the way I make this challenging is to boost them. This is actually kind of a bad example because they will be in water too, so I am talking more in general. Dealing with your party's challenge or having a challenging fight is something that a lot of people have to deal with. It's very difficult for some GMs. When you look at customizing your game, we have rules for this. It will go into it fairly decently about your CR and having your different levels, whether it's hard or epic. But there is a baseline that Paizo is going to be using for what they consider a normal party. In general, I think, especially now with all the books and content out for a slightly dated system like Pathfinder 1E, you're looking at competent players that are going to be a little bit above the bar for a lot of the content in a standard AP. This does not mean that things like traps, especially, cannot TPK your party, or that the occasional monster and just bad decision making or planning of your party will not affect them. But I find that more often than not, my party is dealing with harder encounters. A lot of my challenges that I do are probably by their scale on hard, epic, real deadly encounters, but it just depends. I use things that adjust my monsters. And it's like I said in the Reddit, and a few people have mentioned before, whenever you're adjusting your monsters, it's going to be something you have to do according to your players. I adjust the power of my monsters to fit my party. So, as I mentioned to him, if you have a party that has an extremely high AC, I'm going to be adding an advanced template to it. Advanced template increases all your saves, it increases their AC. But I add things like advanced templates. We can go through some of the rules and add different abilities to them by adding different templates. And this is how I adjust for my party. And I have to do it specifically for my party. Because if they have a lot of attacks and they deal good damage, but their HP and their AC is extremely low and they don't have a way to heal, then if you send some advanced big characters or advanced trolls after your party, you might be looking at a TPK because now they can't hit damage. They have no way of healing. So you might be better off in that situation having your players deal with a lot. The book suggests adding a few extra monsters to it. Just copy them from the book if you're running an AP, or take whatever your calculator says and add a couple monsters to it. That should allow the characters that, like using Chain Lightning or something, and like my kineticist just getting Chain for his Elemental Blast, I can now work several characters at once pretty easily. But it's going to be a way for you to add to the degree of difficulty without creating a single monster that is too powerful for your characters. Because you wouldn't want to add something that had too high of a CR, because the standard attack means they'll never be able to miss, which means they'll always be dealing consistent increased damage. And then they're going to be harder to hit, have more HP. It's just something you have to adjust. My party, usually I have to do both. They usually have obscene ACs and saves and DCs. So I always add advanced templates to my parties. They almost never play anything or fight anything that's on level that would be considered normal for them. It really is a practice thing. I recommend that you adjust for your party. If you have an OP party, I have them running this currently in Mummy's Mask, or I'm a party member, and we shred everything. Everything. We have character with obscenely high AC, and he whines a little bit when I hit him in other games. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to get boring if you can walk through everything, and all you're really doing is checking for a higher number for whatever you did for damage that round. And so normally these players, they're increasing all of their stats, their attack and defense, and my wife, especially her attack, every single time they play a character. So I recommend that when you have a party like this, that instead of just going with the flow and letting it get kind of boring whenever everyone can just one-shot everything, add an advanced template. If there's a slightly stronger monster and they're mixed in and you see, oh, well, there's generals in there, and then they've got a few of the little guys, those guys can't do anything but hit maybe on a 20 and they can get one-rounded, make them all generals. You know, add an advanced template to them. Increase the number of the generals if you need to. This is going to extend your encounter. I always aim for 3 rounds, and sometimes you're looking at more, but I do it so that the party does not feel like they are just walking through. I want them to feel a little bit of danger. So I use advanced. If they can heal a lot, I add advanced and I add things that will deal extra damage. If you're adding extra monsters that are lower CR, some monsters have abilities that are going to make a fight much harder. I will increase those numbers because you're using them tactfully to annoy, deplete resources, and increase the difficulty for your players if it creates difficult terrain. In his example, it was merfolk. Underwater combat, we'll get there, is annoying. And having opponents that can move or hinder you in underwater is going to be detrimental to your players. Just don't lock them down too much because that'll annoy them just. Next, before underwater, we're going to get to delaying action. So this is going to be on a surprise round. Roll for a bomb, die, B3000, whatever, is going to be asking about delaying during a surprise round. Can a character delay their action during a surprise round to act first in regular combat? They give an example for it. They think no. A lot of people kind of went with my consensus on this. And generally, whenever you have a surprise round, that's going to be above this line, you don't get a full round. So you'll get a movement or you'll get an action. Okay. You roll your initiative. Everyone that's going to be acting during the surprise round gets their initiative, and then they act. Well, if you can act during your surprise round and you would like to wait, that's fine. Except that when you delay, and now you want to be at the top of the round, whenever you delay to the next round, you're going to be at that position from then on. It changes. Delaying your initiative changes where you are in the throw. So if A wants to be coming after B, then A can delay and it'll be B, A, C. When you delay to the next round, it's the exact same thing. If you delay all the way until it gets to your turn again in a round, then you lose your previous action that you were saving for the round and you start over again, which then, of course, you can still delay. Maybe you're waiting on a specific action. Maybe you're watching a door. There are situations where that comes into effect. But if you want to act first on the next round, it is possible. But I would not let you use your full round action. So if you would normally just get a round, and especially if you're playing a character like I am, where a full round action means you're much more powerful, then just getting a single action, or if you're playing a martial, and you're already within 5 feet, just getting a full round is going to get you so much better of a round, and you want to delay it, that's fine. But what you're doing when you delay is you're taking that action that you have for that turn, and you are delaying it till later on. So when you take this surprise round and you delay until the start of the next turn, I would only allow you to have that single action. That's what I would do. That's what most everyone pretty much agrees with online as well. When this question comes up, and do a search, it's come up quite a lot over the years. I would just take it. They can still get their single action, but they're going to be starting over. Is it worth it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you're starting this and you delay to the top of the turn because you are going to be going before everyone. Doesn't really matter because you're still going to be using this single turn, but you're having to wait. Maybe A needs to wait until everyone else gets into reach. My character casts haste in my Mummy's Mask game. So even though I'm going to pretty much go first, the reason I want to go first is because I want to be able to cast haste. And sometimes I have to wait for everyone to get to me. So delaying for that is good. But yeah, so that's how you would do that. You can delay. Remember when you delay an action, that, or if you delay in response to say when A is going to attack B, then your action is going to go off right before. So your initiative now is right before A. This is just how initiative works. You're delaying, you're changing where you are. This is the reason that I like having a VTT because it helps to show your encounter. A board works fine, but I just prefer the VTT. Now we're going over something that everybody hates, and that is going to be swimming encounters. This character goes through a way where they're asking about a player entering water, which requires a move action. And then they wish to swim, have their speed down, takes a round action, but if they fail by 5, the easiest thing for you to remember whenever you're doing this is to look at the skills for swimming and then look at the aquatic terrain. Now, aquatic terrain is going to give you this beautiful table. Freedom of movement, of course, is going to negate everything. If you have a swim speed, congratulations. Your moving's fine. Your piercing weapons are fine, which is weird, but why most creatures in the sea use melee piercing weapons. If you're doing ranged, you're just screwed. Congratulations. That's just how it has to be. So ranged is horrible underwater. You take -2 per 5 feet, as it states in the rules. And then when you make a swim check, you can move quarter. Quarter speed is going to be during your move action for that round, or you can move half speed as a full round action. Line is right here. Swim check, you get to move 1/4 speed, 1/2 speed. That's fine. None of the above is going to be a catch-all for things. You're going to still have a little bit of difference whenever it comes to your -2 to attack, but piercing weapons don't take the -2. So if you're martial and you have an extra one, that might be good for you to carry. But you're always going to have a -2 for your attack if you're using bludgeoning or slashing, swinging a sword, which most of you are, and you're also going to be taking half damage. Freedom of movement negates this, so it's just a thing. Creature with firm footing, you're not going to really have it. But either they're walking along the bottom, which you're going to have an ability which does that. You brace up against a ship's hull or something. Then your movement, because you're walking on something, either you're walking on the bottom, maybe you're weighted down, then you move at half speed because you're not trying to swim through the water. And then you're still getting your -2, your attack, and your half damage. Whenever you come up here to swim checks, if you're at the surface of water, fail a swim check, you start to sink, you can just let yourself sink if you want, that's fine. When you're underwater, you can hold your breath for a number of rounds to twice your con score. So most of us, you're looking at 20 to 28 rounds, but that is if you don't do anything. If you decide you're either going to have a swim action, a full round action, action, then you take another one. So you're getting the ability to stay underwater every round, takes half of your hold breath score, and then anytime you do anything that round, not individual things. So move and attack is not 2. Move and attack is 1. Attack is 1. Move is 1. It's just taking action underwater. That's going to take away one of those rounds that you have to hold your breath. Then after that, you start to make checks to see if you are drowning. Look up drowning. You do not want to fail a save and be drowning. It's horrible. But if you're underwater, you have to hold your breath. Whenever you make swim checks, they give you a small table. Calm. Most people just use calm. Sometimes I'll use rough water, but I don't do it too bad. I'm doing an Emerald Spire level that uses some rough or swiftly moving water, which some of your underwater hazards are listed here under the aquatic terrain. Very similar. Most things really just go off current. And that's exactly what this is mentioning here, basically. So rough water having some kind of current to fight to. Maybe it's sloshing back and forth. Riptides and Undertow are just giving you specificities for it. Whirlpool, fairly similar, only it's got a little bit of an action to draw you under. Most of the time, if you can remember this table as a GM, you're probably going to be okay. Or remember that you're adjusting depending on how fast the water is, like you would with the current. So it's not that bad. Also remember, if you're near the surface of the water, then they're going to be getting a bonus. Where's the bonus? There we go. Water. There we go. Attacks from land. If you're floating at the top, or if you're wading chest deep water, then you have improved cover. That's +8 to your AC, reflex. You are still going to be taking that -2 to your attack. You are still going to be taking the movement penalty, but it's going to be providing you with good cover. I will actually have a lot of times where I'll have characters with piercing weapons or archery or something shoot from water, and just to give them cover. And then, of course, if you go down, you have complete cover. So that is something whenever you have characters that don't want to go near water because they don't want to, I antagonize them until they either figure a way to draw them out physically or they go in after it. Most of the time, especially later on, your players are going to get the ability to cast spells, take care of that. Not a big deal. But water's not that bad. Just remember, if you can use something like air bubble or freedom of movement, or if you want to play an Undine and get it a swim speed, it's going to give you spades in the ability to play in water. You should always have that in a water campaign. Almost forgot, spellcasters. If you're going to be casting a spell, if you cannot breathe, you need to bring air bubble, life bubble, something like that. You have to make a concentration check, DC 15 plus the spell to cast underneath water. So remember that your GM will impose different swimming checks. If you fail a swimming check, you're going to be sinking. You can still make your attack round. You're just not going to be able to move. So you're still going to sink, go away, or go with the flow of water because you're not able to fight it. And then, of course, you're not going to be able to make any kind of movement and difficult terrain. So there is no 5-foot step. We're going to go to our last question real quick, which I thought was good. And one we ran into last session, I believe, while we were playing Mummy's Mask. We've done this. I've used it a few times. Incorporeal critters. And they enter or pass through solid objects, but must remain adjacent to the object's exterior. Does this mean it can move along a wall as long as it stays near the edge? So pretty easy. A little bit of an argument when it comes to whether or not they can move vertically. Let's take a look real quick. So incorporeal creature has no physical body. It can be harmed only by incorporeal creatures, magic weapons, creatures that strike magic, spell-like abilities, that kind of things. It has immunity to all non-magic attacks, even when it's hit by a spell or magic. So tossing something at it doesn't work. You have to actually hit it with magic, and it only takes half damage from a corporeal source, usually you, except energy channel. So bring a cleric. Although it's not a magical attack, holy water can do it in corporeal. There you go too. Corporeal spells do not cause damage. That do not cause damage only have a 50% chance of affecting an incorporeal creature. Or spells and effects such as magic missile affect an incorporeal creature normally. They have no natural armor. Everything's deflection with them, so it's usually going to be off of a charisma or a high charisma character. Low or no charisma characters do not make good ghosts if you're going to do that later. It can enter or pass through solid objects, but remains adjacent to the object's exterior, so it cannot pass entirely through an object whose space is larger than its own. We usually say still a 5-foot square. It can sense the presence of creatures or objects within a square adjacent to its current location, so that's important. But enemies have total concealment from an incorporeal creature that is inside of an object. In order to see beyond the object it is in and attack normally, the incorporeal creature must emerge. If it's inside of an object, it has total cover. But when it attacks a creature outside the object, it has cover. Different cover rules. Remember, there's still targets getting +4 AC. So a creature outside or with a ready action can strike when the ghost reaches out to attack, whether it's moving completely out of concealment or if it's just attacking and it gets this cover. Incorporeal creature cannot pass through a force field or force effect. It passes through natural armor. Everyone knows is going to be either magic armor, deflection, touch. That's what we have those things for, or dex. It passes through and operate in water as easily as they do in air. My next thing's going to be over this, and some people may argue with me, so leave them in the comments. It cannot fall or take falling damage. Falling damage is obviously because non-magical, or it's not generally magical, but regardless, creatures cannot fall. Okay. Incorporeal creatures cannot make trip or grapple attacks, nor can they be tripped or grappled. Yep. Sorry, Fett. In fact, they cannot take any physical action that would move or manipulate an object or its equipment, nor are they subject to such actions. We went through that. Incorporeal creatures have no weight. They don't set off traps and that are triggered by weight. They move silently. That's good for you if you want to be sneaky with them. So that's it. No strength score. Yeah. Or it has a strength score, sorry. Its dexterity modifies its attacks, ranged attacks, CMB. Non-visual senses such as scent and blind sight are either ineffective or only partially effective regarding incorporeal creatures. They have no innate sense, or they have an innate sense of direction and can move full speed even though they cannot see. This goes along with them being inside of a square. What this means is that your ghost can be out in the world, fighting you, terrorizing you, and go inside a wall. Naturally, in a wall, it can move up to the player and attack from inside that wall. Meaning the player can't normally see it, but if they know where it's going to come from, they can ready any attack. So what that means is they can move out, and since this wall is only 5 feet, they can pass all the way through it. A lot of people play Incorporeal very much like Ethereal, which is okay. I've done it before too, but they will go and mean that they can pass through any solid surface. What Incorporeal really means is they have to stay next to that outer surface. So this wall is 10 feet thick. He can technically not pass all the way through. He has to go to the end, come through, and then he can pass on to the other side. It is putting a restriction on him. Most people, including myself, when it's necessary, allow incorporeal creatures to completely pass through larger structures like this. But what this does mean is that you're able to move into a wall, gain a better position, and then attack. If you do not have an attack ready, and there's a player that you are fighting, then if your ghost comes out, they are not going to provoke an attack of opportunity, even if they have combat expertise or anything like that, because they're in a wall and they're basically just stepping into a point of them being able to attack you. This goes the exact same way if, say this is the ground, and your ghost is underneath you. He can attack you directly below you, or right in front, or he can come up to your level. Even if your character, like in our last game, has a pole arm, if he comes here and then moves, you would provoke an attack of opportunity. If he comes up here, he does not. Reasoning is because he is in an area that supposedly has full cover for you in his current state, so you can't attack him until he attacks you, or moves into a square that you threaten. Now, what this does mean is if you have a pole arm or something and he is going in, unless he uses the retreat action so that he does not provoke for that one round, then he's going to provoke whenever he goes in and starts to move for his turn. But that's the way that's going to work if they go into the ground. Now, that didn't say anything about flying. When you look at ghosts, while they're incorporeal, don't have a fly speed. That's your cover rules. They don't have a fly speed. There's a little bit of an argument on if incorporeal creatures have flight. I'm going to say that if you're incorporeal, and you can do this however you want, but if you're corporeal, since you're not affected by gravity normally, there's other instances where that is talked about, you cannot fall or take falling damage, and you move through water and other objects as you move through air, I'm going to say, also not being able to be tripped or anything, I'm going to say that you move through objects in any way you want. So I allow my ghosts to fly. Whether they have a fly speed or not, their movement speed is just their movement speed. If they have a fly speed, and then they get turned into a ghost, whichever is faster is the one that I use. But this means that I'm going to allow my ghost to fly. Since they can't take falling damage, if this is now a pit and he walks off, if he can't fall and he can't take falling damage, doesn't make sense not to allow him to just fly in any direction he wants. But that also means that unlike being able to drop double speed, I restrict my ghosts' movement to whatever their movement is. So if they can walk normally and they're unimpeded by anything, if they can go through one layer and they're unimpeded by anything and I can move them around and they know and can sense where party members are, when they have to fly, then it's whatever their speed is. If it's 30, it's 30. If it's 60, it's 60. If they have to go down, they don't get 120. They only get 60. The reason I do that is because nothing impedes their movement and they're unaffected by gravity. Therefore, they move the same no matter what. So that's just my view on ghost and incorporeal creatures. We've dealt with them before. Always remember to bring something against the undead, and they're always fun to deal with. I love to have them hiding in walls, and especially on the ground, and attacking from below. And I constantly do that to my players because it's a way to give the advantage to a monster that, in toe-to-toe fight, once they have magic, is probably not going to be that big of a deal unless they have a special ability. Either way, enjoy your games this weekend, guys. Roll me some 20s and tell me how you do.